the missing name. The ballroom lights shimmered like stars fallen to earth, casting golden glows across the floor. Outside, luxury cars lined the entrance, their doors opening to men in sharp tuxedos and women in glittering gowns. This was the tech charity gala of the year, held in the heart of Beverly Hills. Celebrities, CEOs, innovators, and royalty had gathered under one roof for a single night of networking, recognition, and celebration. One name on the invitation list had the entire crowd buzzing: Keanu Reeves. But this story wasn't supposed to be about him. Not at first. The story, at its heart, started with someone who wasn't even on the list. Her name was Janelle Thomas, a 38-year-old single mother of two, worked as a tech engineer for a small nonprofit focused on teaching kids of color how to code. She had been personally invited by one of the event's co-organizers after she spoke at a local youth conference. Her words that day had moved hearts, speaking not from fame or fortune but from truth. Her journey had been tough, growing up in public housing, working 3 jobs to finish college, and rising in a field that rarely made space for people who looked like her. Her story inspired change. The invitation had arrived in a simple envelope. No glitter, no gold, just her name, the time, and the place. She rented a beautiful black dress for the occasion, braided her hair the night before, and rehearsed her speech in front of the mirror until her voice trembled with emotion. This was her moment. But when Janelle arrived at the entrance, her heart pounding with both nerves and hope, she noticed something strange. The red carpet moved quickly for others. Everyone smiled, nodded, welcomed. But when she stepped up and offered her name, the hostess's smile vanished. "I'm sorry," the woman said without looking up. "You're not on the list." Janelle blinked. "My name is Janelle Thomas. I was invited by—" "I understand, but your name's not here," the hostess interrupted, her tone sharp now, glancing at the well-dressed couple behind Janelle. "Please, just double-check," Janelle said gently. "I have the invitation." She pulled out the envelope, but the woman waved it off. "This event is for donors and speakers only. If you could please step aside," a few people behind her whispered. Someone chuckled. Janelle's cheeks burned. She moved out of the way, clutching the envelope to her chest like it could protect her from shame. Her eyes scanned the elegant hall. Through the wide glass doors, people were already mingling. She had prepared months for this. And now, she stood outside like she didn't belong. What she didn't know was that someone inside had just noticed her standing there. Keanu Reeves was by no means the loudest in the room. He had arrived earlier, dressed in a plain black suit, no entourage, no announcement. He didn't care much for fame. He was there for the cause, and for someone he had quietly followed in recent months. Someone who reminded him of what real strength looked like. He had seen Janelle's talk online, not once but 3 times. He remembered her voice, her passion, the way she spoke about opening doors for others, even if she had to kick them down herself. That talk had made him donate, anonymously, to her nonprofit, and now, seeing her face again outside the glass, looking confused and hurt, something didn't feel right. He excused himself from the conversation he was in. "I'll be right back," he said quietly. As he stepped toward the entrance, a few heads turned. He passed servers, guests, and photographers without a word. When he opened the glass door and walked out onto the steps, the night air was cool and silent. Janelle stood to the side, her head down, eyes wet, clutching her envelope. "Excuse me," Keanu said softly. Janelle looked up, startled. Her eyes widened. Yeah." He nodded with a small smile. "But that's not important. Are you okay?" Janelle hesitated. Her pride wanted to say yes, but her truth wanted to be heard. "They said I wasn't on the list. I showed them the invite, but I don't know what happened." Keanu looked at the envelope in her hands. He took it, glanced at it, then looked back toward the entrance. "May I?" he asked gently. "What?" Janelle asked. "Walk in with you." Before she could answer, he took her hand, not as a gesture of rescue, but of solidarity. He led her back to the entrance. The hostess's expression shifted the moment. She saw him. "Mr. Reeves, welcome. Is everything okay?" "No," he said calmly. This woman is my guest tonight. Her name is Janelle Thomas. I expect her name to be added. Permanently. The hostess stammered. Of course, yes, of course, I apologize, must have been a mistake. Yes, Keanu said, his tone still gentle but firm. A mistake that happens too often. Janelle didn't say a word as they walked into the ballroom. Her feet felt heavy, her heart even heavier. But something else started growing. Something warmer. The shame didn't disappear, but it changed. It became fuel. It became fire. And for the first time that night, the cameras weren't focused on the stars or billionaires. They were all watching her. Janelle Thomas. A name they had tried to erase. A name that was about to be heard by everyone in that room. The woman they tried to hide. The ballroom didn't quiet because of Keanu. It quieted because he was walking in holding hands with a woman no one expected to see there. The chandeliers still glittered above them. The music still played. But the air had changed. Heads turned. Whispers followed them like shadows. And Janelle felt every stare digging into her skin like cold needles. She held her breath, trying to make herself small, invisible. But Keanu didn't let her. He led her past the tables filled with high-ranking CEOs, past influencers with cameras, and past a long table where the event's board members sat. At the very end of that table sat Harold Denning, a gray-haired executive in a midnight blue tuxedo. His jaw clenched the moment he saw Janelle. Harold was the one who had erased her name. He didn't do it out of hatred. He did it out of ego. He had disagreed with the co-organizer's decision to invite her in the first place. In his eyes, Janelle was a nobody. She didn't donate money. She didn't own a company. She wasn't famous. She came from the wrong neighborhood. Her ideas about tech for underprivileged children were noble, but in his opinion, they didn't belong in a room filled with elites. So he gave a simple order: remove her name from the final list. He never expected Keanu Reeves to be watching. As they reached the center of the room, Keanu leaned in and whispered, "Would you like a drink?" Janelle nodded, her voice still caught in her throat. She couldn't believe what was happening. Just minutes ago, she had been humiliated outside. Now she stood beside Keanu Reeves, in the middle of a crowd that had just learned her name. Keanu got her a glass of sparkling water and stayed by her side as people approached. Some came out of curiosity, some out of guilt, and a few out of respect. "So nice to meet you," a woman said with a forced smile. "And what is it that you do?" Janelle straightened her back. "I help children in underserved communities learn to code." The woman blinked. "Oh, that's lovely." Another guest, a younger man with expensive glasses, stepped in. "I think I've seen your TED Talk." "Wait, no. It was that youth conference online. You talked about your brother, right?" Janelle nodded slowly, surprised. "Yes. He was wrongly imprisoned when we were teenagers. Tech was the only thing that gave me a way out." The man's expression turned serious. "That speech changed how I think about access to education. You should be on the stage tonight." Keanu looked at him. "I agree." Near the back of the room, Harold Denning was watching everything. His lips were pressed into a tight line, and his fingers gripped his champagne flute so tightly the stem almost cracked. He leaned toward another board member and muttered, "This isn't good. We have major donors here. We don't need a political circus." But his colleague frowned. "She's not causing a scene. She's just standing there. And people seem to like her." Harold's eyes narrowed. This wasn't supposed to happen. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the room, the co-organizer, Nadia Elias, rushed toward Keanu and Janelle. She had been the one who originally invited Janelle weeks ago, moved by her work and passion, but she hadn't been told her name was removed. "Janelle," Nadia said breathlessly. "Oh my God, I had no idea. They told me you declined the invitation." "I didn't," Janelle said softly. "I came, but they said I wasn't on the list." Keanu gently touched Nadia's arm. "Who told you she declined?" Nadia's eyes widened. She didn't need to say it. Her gaze drifted toward the head table. Harold, Nadia's cheeks turned red with anger. "I'm so sorry. You deserve better, and you deserve the stage. You should have been a speaker tonight." Keanu nodded. It's not too late. But the schedule's full, Nadia hesitated. Unless, Keanu raised an eyebrow. Unless, what? Unless someone steps down. Each speaker gets 5 minutes. We're only halfway through the lineup. Keanu's voice was calm but powerful. Then someone should step down. That moment created a ripple. People nearby overheard it. The news began to spread. Keanu wants her to speak. And suddenly, the energy shifted again. A woman who was scheduled to talk about crypto trends and philanthropy stepped aside without complaint. I think her voice matters more, she said, smiling at Janelle. When the MC returned to the stage after a short musical performance, she looked surprised, even nervous. She tapped the microphone and said, Ladies and gentlemen, we have a slight change in our program. Please welcome someone who's changing the face of technology and education, Miss Janelle Thomas. Janelle stood frozen. Keanu gently touched her shoulder. This is your moment. Tell them your truth. With shaking legs, she walked toward the stage. Each step felt like walking through fire. Each stare, each camera flash, every glance from those who once dismissed her added weight to her steps. But when she reached the podium, she didn't read from her notes. She looked up, saw her reflection in the giant screens around her, and spoke. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, she said, her voice raw, trembling. Not because I didn't want to be, or because I didn't belong, but because someone decided I wasn't enough. The room fell into silence. When I was growing up, my mom worked 3 jobs just so we could eat. I studied in broken classrooms, using secondhand computers. I knew early on that I wasn't expected to succeed, but I did. Not because I was lucky, but because someone believed in me, and later I started believing in myself. Her voice grew stronger. There are thousands of children out there who have the minds of engineers, of designers, of leaders, but they're locked out of rooms like this, not because they're not capable, but because people don't see them. She looked toward the crowd, eyes full of light now. If we want real change, we have to start by changing who we allow through the doors. A pause. And then thunderous applause. Not polite clapping. Not forced praise. Real, rising, roaring applause. Keanu clapped from the front row, his eyes glistening with quiet pride. Harold Denning didn't clap. He stood and walked out of the ballroom, his name already fading as another was being remembered. Janelle Thomas, the woman they tried to hide, the woman they would never forget. After the applause, the ballroom was still buzzing even after Janelle stepped down from the stage. Her words didn't just land, they stayed. They echoed in every heart and rattled the walls of a space built to keep voices like hers out. Strangers came up to her now, not out of curiosity but out of genuine admiration. Hands reached for hers, smiles weren't forced anymore, and in every pair of eyes Janelle saw something new. Respect. Keanu walked beside her, quiet, proud, his presence shielding her like an invisible armor. The two of them stopped near a marble pillar away from the center of the room so she could catch her breath. Her chest rose and fell with the weight of all that had just happened. I didn't plan to speak, she whispered. Keanu smiled gently. That's what made it powerful. She turned to him. Why did you help me? Because I know what it feels like to be judged by what you're not, he replied softly. Not by your story, not by your spirit. Too many good people get overlooked. Not enough people speak up. She looked down, her voice quieter now. I almost went home. I almost believed them. But you didn't, Keanu said. You stayed. And now, look what you've done. As they talked, a reporter from a respected online magazine approached, holding her phone. Sorry to interrupt, she said politely. Miss Thomas, I'd love to do a feature on you. Your story is remarkable. Janelle blinked. Me? Yes. And if possible, I'd like to highlight the work you do with those kids. They need to be seen too. Janelle nodded slowly. Yes, thank you. That means a lot. The woman smiled. We'll be in touch. Keanu leaned over and whispered, This is just the beginning. But as Janelle soaked in that hope, A storm was brewing in the quiet corners of the gala. In a nearby hallway, Harold Denning had pulled aside two of his closest allies on the board. His voice was low but bitter. "This is spiraling out of control. She just hijacked the event," he hissed. "She inspired people, Harold," one of the board members said. "And frankly, after what you did, you're lucky she didn't call you out." "I did what was best for the event," Harold snapped. "We don't need that kind of drama tied to our name." But another board member shook her head. "You don't get it. You are the drama now. People are already tweeting about what happened. Videos of her speech are trending. Your name is in some of them." Harold's face turned pale. What? But it was true. While the speeches continued on stage, dozens of guests had posted clips online. The moment Janelle said, "Someone decided I wasn't enough," hit hard, and Keanu walking her in hand, had gone viral. The hashtags started rolling in. Janelle Thomas. Every voice matters. KeanuReeves, real hero, a tech journalist, tweeted. They erased her name from the list. He brought her back in. She changed the room with truth. This is the story we needed. Within an hour, the internet was ablaze. Janelle didn't know any of this yet. She was too busy meeting the CEO of a major learning platform who offered to collaborate with her nonprofit. Too busy answering questions from young coders in the room, who looked like her and said they finally felt seen. Too busy shining. But when she finally took a break and stepped outside onto the terrace for some air, her phone buzzed nonstop. She pulled it out. Hundreds of notifications. Messages. Tags. Articles. Her inbox had nearly exploded. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. "Is this real?" she whispered. Keanu stepped beside her again. "It is. And it's about time." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "I don't know what to say." He shrugged gently. "Maybe just say thank you to yourself. You showed up. That was the hardest part." A moment passed. Then Janelle laughed softly. "My dress is rented. I don't even own heels." "That makes it even better." He grinned. Authentic always wins. Just then, a young woman in a hotel uniform came up to them. She looked nervous but determined. "I'm sorry," she said. "I just wanted to say thank you. I watched your speech on my break. I've never heard someone say the things I've always felt. My little sister wants to be an engineer, but we don't have much." Janelle knelt down to her level and took her hand. "Tell your sister this. The world may not open the door, but she can build her own." The girl teared up, nodded, and walked away, her heart lighter. Keanu turned to Janelle again. "See, you're already changing lives." Just then, Nadia Elias joined them outside. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "CNN wants to run a segment on you tomorrow, and several foundations have asked for your nonprofit's information." Janelle covered her mouth. "I just came here to tell my story." "And you did," Nadia said. "But you also woke people up." Just when Janelle thought the night couldn't turn further, something even more surprising happened. A security guard walked up with a puzzled look. "Excuse me," he said. "Someone just dropped off a large package at the front desk. It's addressed to you." "To me?" Janelle asked, confused. The guard nodded. "Yes, and it's from Mr. Reeves." Janelle turned sharply to Keanu. He gave a sheepish smile. "I was going to wait until later, but might as well now." They returned to the lobby together. The guard led them to a corner where a sleek black box sat on a table. Janelle hesitated, then slowly opened it. Inside was a brand new laptop. High performance, pre-installed with coding software and a handwritten note on top, for the next girl who wants to build her own door. "Give this to her." Signed, simply. Janelle held the note in her hand, her eyes full of tears. "I don't even know how to thank you." Keanu shrugged. "Don't thank me. Just keep building." And that's when Janelle knew. This night wasn't about humiliation anymore. It was a beginning, a shift. The moment a woman they tried to erase became the voice no one could ignore. The rising storm. The next morning, Janelle woke up in her small apartment in South Los Angeles. Her phone was still buzzing beside her bed. Her inbox was flooded, and the sun hadn't even fully risen yet. She sat up slowly, still wearing the hair, scarf she wrapped the night before, unsure if the whole night had been a dream. But the black dress still hanging from the back of the bedroom door reminded her it was real. She hadn't imagined any of it. Keanu Reeves. The stage, the applause, the moment that changed everything. She walked to the window, phone in hand, and scrolled through her notifications. Every major platform was talking about her now. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. The headline on a popular blog read, "From erased to embraced, Janelle Thomas just gave the speech of the year" underneath. Clips of her powerful 5-minute talk were already being translated into Spanish, French, even Korean. One post had nearly 2 million views overnight, and then she saw it, a message from Oprah Winfrey's production team. Subject line: "We'd love to talk to you, Janelle." Her knees gave out and she sat down slowly on the edge of her bed, hand over her mouth. In another tab was a message from the National Coding League, offering a grant worth $250,000 for her nonprofit. Janelle closed her eyes. Her heart was full. And still, her hands were shaking. Just as she was about to call her mother to tell her everything, a text came through from Nadia Elias. "Check the news right now. Harold is doing damage control." Janelle turned on the TV in the corner of the living room. A news anchor was speaking. After a speech by grassroots tech educator Janelle Thomas went viral, one of the event's board members, Harold Denning, has issued a formal statement denying he removed her name from the guest list. This contradicts eyewitness accounts and behind-the-scenes confirmations by other organizers. Mr. Denning has since restricted his social media accounts and declined interviews. Janelle stared at the screen. It wasn't over. Not yet. She picked up the phone and called Nadia. "He's lying," she said, calm but firm. "I know," Nadia replied. "But people are calling him out. They're demanding he step down from the board." "You started a movement, Janelle. We're all behind you." "I didn't mean to start a war," Janelle whispered. "You didn't. You started a wave. He started the war the moment he erased your name." Just then her second phone buzzed, the one used for nonprofit work. It was usually quiet. Today it wouldn't stop ringing. A call came in from a small-town principal in Ohio, then a mother in Detroit, then a teacher from rural Texas. Each one said the same thing. "We saw your speech. How can we bring your program to our kids?" That evening Keanu called her, not from a press team or through an assistant, just him. "Hey, you okay?" he asked softly. "Honestly," she said, laughing nervously, "I'm overwhelmed." "Good," he chuckled. "Means something real is happening." She paused. "I don't want this to be just a viral moment. I want it to mean something. I want it to last." "Then let's make it last," he replied. "I talked to my business partner. We'd like to donate a permanent learning center to your nonprofit. A real building, your own space." Janelle nearly dropped the phone. "You're kidding." "Nope," he said. "We're already scouting locations." "Keanu, I can't even." "Yes, you can, and you will. This is yours now." Janelle wiped tears from her eyes. "Thank you. For everything. You don't owe me thanks. I just did what was right. You did the rest." Meanwhile, across town, Harold Denning was sitting in a private conference room, his hands trembling. His lawyer was going over a crisis plan, but none of it felt like enough. Every media outlet was digging. Former staffers were speaking up. Stories were emerging about past events where people of color were mysteriously overlooked or forgotten. Patterns were being revealed, and Keanu Reeves's quiet involvement only gave the story more power. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. The pressure was building. By the end of the week, Harold was asked to resign. He didn't argue. He knew the tide had turned. And it wasn't just because of one mistake. It was because someone finally stood up, and the world had watched. 2 weeks later, the nonprofit Janelle built, Code for Change, received its largest donation yet. The press showed up for the announcement of the new learning center, and so did the mayor, local schools, and dozens of kids from neighborhoods just like the one Janelle had grown up in. But the biggest surprise Keanu Reeves showed up in a hoodie and jeans, carrying a backpack. "What's in the bag?" someone asked. "Just a few laptops," he said with a smile. "I thought I'd sit in on today's first class." The cameras loved it. But more than that, the kids loved it. Janelle introduced Keanu not as a celebrity, but as someone who showed up when it mattered. And then, she turned to the group of wide-eyed young faces and said something she would repeat many times over the next year. "Never let anyone erase you. Your voice, your name, your place. It matters. If they close the door, knock louder. If they lock it, build your own. And if you ever feel alone, remember, one voice can start a wave." As she said it, a young girl in the front row raised her hand. "Can we write our names on the wall?" she asked shyly. Janelle smiled. "Yes. Write them big, because this place is yours." By the end of that day, the wall at the back of the room was covered in names, not famous names, not rich names, but real names, names that couldn't be erased. Again. The Wall of Names. The new learning center had opened just 2 days ago, and already it felt alive. Sunlight poured in through wide windows, casting soft warmth across bright walls filled with books, circuit boards, and computers donated from across the country. Laughter echoed through the rooms. Kids who had never touched a laptop before were now typing lines of code with eager fingers. Some stumbled, some asked questions, others helped each other. And in the back room, just as promised, the wall was covered with names. Names written in colored markers, in bold strokes, in tiny loops. Each one was different. Each one had a story. Zuri, Malik, Ava, Elijah, Jamari. They weren't just names on a wall. They were declarations. I exist. I matter. I belong here. Janelle stood quietly before it that morning, holding a fresh marker in her hand. Behind her, Keanu walked in, his steps soft, respectful. He looked around and smiled at the growing space. "It's beautiful," he said. Janelle nodded. "These kids, they make it beautiful." Keanu glanced at the wall. "Have you added your name yet?" Janelle looked down at the marker. "Not yet." "Why?" She smiled softly. "I've been so busy lifting others I forgot I was allowed to take up space too." Keanu stepped closer. "You didn't just take space, you created it." Janelle finally raised her hand, walked up to the very center of the wall, and wrote in careful letters, "Janelle Thomas." Below it, she added one more line for every child they said didn't belong. When she turned around, there was a small crowd behind her. Kids, staff, volunteers, and Keanu. They applauded, not loudly but with deep warmth. It wasn't about fame or cameras anymore. It was about community, about healing, about truth. Later that afternoon, a surprise visitor arrived. Nadia Elias had brought a special guest, Michelle Obasi, the co-chair of a global education alliance. Tall, graceful, and sharp-eyed, Michelle walked through the center slowly, speaking to students, asking about their projects. When she sat down with Janelle, her tone was calm but purposeful. "You've built something rare," she said. "Not just a building, but a safe space. A lighthouse." "Thank you," Janelle said quietly. "I just want them to know they're enough." Michelle leaned forward. "We want to partner with you, funding, scholarships, expansion. We need your voice in the room, on boards, in policy meetings, on stages." Janelle blinked. "You want me to lead at that level?" "You already are," Michelle said. "You just haven't stepped into the light fully. It's time." Janelle felt her heart swell again. She looked over at the wall, where one boy was adding his name with a bright green marker. His grin was wide, his future brighter than ever. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." That night, Janelle returned home late. She hadn't slept properly in days. Her voice was hoarse, her inbox overflowing, but her soul felt steady. She made a cup of tea and sat at the small kitchen table where her youngest daughter, Naya, had left a drawing with crayon hearts and a stick figure version of Janelle next to Keanu. A small caption under it read, "My mommy is a hero." Janelle touched the paper and laughed softly. Tears pricked her eyes again. For years, she had hidden her struggles from her kids, kept the pain behind closed doors. They never saw her cry after job rejections. They never saw her skip dinner so they could eat. And now they were seeing her shine. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from an old professor she hadn't spoken to in over a decade. He had once told her that success wasn't likely for someone from her background. His message now read, "I was wrong. You've done something extraordinary. I'm proud of you." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The silence was enough. The next day, Janelle visited her childhood school, a brick building with broken fencing and peeling paint. The same one where she used to sit in the back row and wonder if dreams were only for other people. She had donated computers, new chairs, a coding program, and now she stood in the hallway she once walked as a girl and met a teacher who still remembered her. "You were the quiet one," he said. "Not anymore," she smiled. He led her to a small classroom where 10 young girls waited, seated in a circle. Most were shy. A few looked unsure. Janelle sat down with them. No cameras, no stage. Just them. "I was you once," she said. "I sat in that corner seat and told myself I wasn't good enough. People told me I didn't belong in tech, that I should pick something easier. But I didn't listen, and neither should you." One girl raised her hand. "What if we're scared?" "Do it scared," Janelle said. "Just don't stop." Another girl whispered, "They laugh at us." "They laughed at me too," Janelle replied. "But guess who's laughing now?" The room giggled. The energy shifted. These weren't just words. They were a rope being thrown back across a chasm for others to grab hold of. Across town, Keanu Reeves was also reflecting. He sat with his longtime friend and manager, reviewing the dozens of messages he had received from fans, from charities, from media, but none of that mattered as much as the letter he now held in his hand. It was from a 14-year-old boy in Atlanta who wrote, "I saw what you did for Miss Janelle. Thank you. I'm black. I'm quiet. And I never thought people like me could matter. But I started learning to code today." Keanu read it twice. Then he folded it gently, placed it in his journal and whispered, "This is what matters." When his friend asked if he wanted to go on a show to talk about it, he shook his head. "This isn't about me. Let her shine." Meanwhile, at Code for Change, the wall of names continued to grow. Every week more children came in, from neighborhoods near and far, kids whose schools had closed labs, kids who had no Wi-Fi at home, kids who didn't speak until they were seen. And right there beside them was Janelle. Not a celebrity. Not a trend. A builder. A mentor. A storm that turned into shelter. And as she stood with a group of young girls during their weekly workshop, one of them tugged on her sleeve and whispered, "Miss Janelle, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." Janelle knelt down and smiled. "No," she said gently. "When you grow up, you be you. Because the world needs your name too." Her name lit the sky the 1-year anniversary of the night Janelle Thomas was erased, and then rewritten in history was approaching fast. The media had been counting down. The headlines were calling it the moment that moved mountains. But for Janelle, the day wasn't about memories. It was about momentum. Code for Change now had 3 learning centers across Los Angeles. Another one was opening in Atlanta next month. There was talk of an international program launching in Ghana, where Janelle's grandmother had been born. The wall of names had become a symbol. It wasn't just paint and marker anymore. It was now a traveling digital exhibit displayed in schools, community halls, and even at major tech conventions. Thousands of children had added their names, names that had once felt forgotten. But tonight something bigger was planned. Janelle stood on the rooftop of a downtown LA building, heart racing. The skyline glowed behind her and a large crowd had gathered. Families, students, teachers, developers, news crews, even politicians had come. They weren't here for a party. They were here for a promise that started with a missing name and was now about to light up the sky. Keanu walked up behind her, dressed in a simple black jacket. The crowd roared when they saw him, but he stayed behind the spotlight where he felt most comfortable. "Nervous?" he asked softly. Janelle smiled. "More like heavy, in a good way." He nodded. You built all this. We built this, she corrected. Nah, he chuckled. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through and made a new room for everyone else. A moment later, the MC took the mic and welcomed everyone to the Light the Names celebration. She spoke about the movement, the children, the work that had been done, and the people who made it possible. Then she called Janelle to the stage. Janelle walked slowly, her hands steady now, her voice calm but full of power. 1 year ago, she began, I was told my name wasn't on the list. I stood outside a building wondering if maybe I wasn't meant to be part of something greater. But someone reached out not to save me, but to remind me that my story mattered. The crowd listened, hushed, leaning into every word. This moment isn't just about me. It's about every girl who was told she was too loud, every boy who was told he wasn't smart enough, every name that was crossed out, silenced, or ignored. She looked out at the crowd, her voice steady. Tonight, we light those names in the sky. She stepped back, and a hush fell. Keanu joined her silently. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Janelle pressed a button on a small remote in her hand. And then, slowly, brilliantly, the sky lit up. Not with fireworks, not with advertisements, but with names. Hundreds of drones flew into position, forming glowing letters high above the city. Naya, Elijah, Malia, Roberto, Fatima. Name after name after name, scrolling like a tapestry of stars across the night. People gasped, kids cried, teachers held each other, parents whispered, "That's my child's name." And far across the world, millions watched the live stream. It wasn't just a local event anymore. It was global. Twitter exploded. Instagram overflowed. News anchors choked up. A trending hashtag rose in minutes. Lithesky with names as the display continued. One final message formed at the center of the sky. We are not invisible. The crowd erupted. Janelle closed her eyes, and for a moment, it all returned. The night she stood outside, humiliated and erased. The sting, the silence, the deep ache of being told, you don't belong here. But tonight, that feeling was gone. Not because it was forgotten, but because it had been rewritten. 2 weeks later, Janelle was invited to the White House. Not for a photo, not for a medal, but to advise. She joined a committee on educational technology and inclusion. She sat across from senators, leaders, and executives, not as a guest, but as a voice. Her voice. The one they tried to silence. The one now helping shape national policy. She spoke with calm confidence. No anger, just truth. And she ended her talk with the same line she gave those young girls back in her childhood school. If they lock the door, build your own. A few months later, Janelle was walking home from a late meeting when a woman stopped her on the sidewalk. You don't remember me, do you? The woman said. Janelle tilted her head, trying to place her. I was the hostess, the woman said slowly. The night of the gala. The one who told you. You weren't on the list. Janelle's breath caught. The woman looked nervous, guilty. I was following orders, she whispered. But I'm sorry. Janelle looked at her, not with hate, not even with anger, but with something else, forgiveness. Thank you for saying that, Janelle said softly. We all have the power to change. The woman nodded, her eyes wet. You've done something incredible, Janelle smiled. I hope it's just the beginning. And then she walked away, strong, tall, unshaken. Not everyone who hurts you will see you again. But sometimes, the universe makes sure they do. On the anniversary night's final day, Janelle returned to her old apartment, where she had once cried, over being left out. She stood at the same window, now lit by city lights. Her daughter Naya walked up beside her, older now but still bright-eyed. Mommy, she said, did you ever think this would happen? Janelle thought for a long moment. No, she whispered. I thought they'd never see me. But now they do, Naya smiled. No, Janelle said gently. Now we see each other. She pulled her daughter close, and together they looked up at the stars. Not just the ones in the sky, but the ones who had written their names on a wall and claimed their place in the world.